Donald Trump's tariffs and tariff threats are already paying off in a massive way. In the short 6 weeks that he's been president, he has already secured over $1.7 trillion in investment in America that is going to lead to hundreds of thousands of good-paying jobs. As always, like the video and subscribe to the channel, but let's start with Donald Trump addressing Congress last night and announcing this massive win, $1.7 trillion in investment.
Thanks to our America First policies we're putting into place, we have had $1.7 trillion of new investment in America in just the past few weeks. The combination of the election and our economic policies that people of SoftBank, one of the most brilliant anywhere in the world, announced a $200 billion investment. OpenAI and Oracle, Larry Ellison, announced $500 billion investment, which they wouldn't have done if Kamala had won. Apple announced $500 billion investment. Tim Cook called me. He said, I cannot spend it fast enough. It's going to be much higher than that, I believe. They'll be building their plants here instead of in China. And just yesterday, Taiwan Semiconductor, the biggest in the world, most powerful in the world, has a tremendous amount, 97% of the market, announced a $165 billion investment to build the most powerful chips on earth right here in the USA.
So while the Democrats want to tell you that the tariffs are ineffective and they're stupid, the leaders of these trillion-dollar multinational corporations are tripping over each other, trying to run to dump money inside of America. Donald Trump is simply creating an extremely business-friendly environment in America and take advantage of the most robust market on planet Earth, just so long as they help out the American worker in the process. I don't see how Democrats can claim to be pro-worker, but then support companies laying off American workers and opting to move their manufacturing to a low labor cost country where they can exploit the labor force and then send those goods right back into America. Donald Trump is standing up for the American worker, and on top of that massive $1.7 trillion of investment, today, Honda came out and said they're moving their factory from Mexico to Indiana to avoid tariffs.
Sources say Honda has decided to produce its next-generation Civic hybrid in the U.S. state of Indiana. The switch from Mexico is to avoid potential tariffs on one of its top-selling car models, the people familiar with the matter have said. The change underscores how manufacturers are scrambling to adapt to U.S. President Donald Trump's proposed 25% tariffs on goods from Mexico and Canada. Several automakers have expressed concerns about the levies, but Honda's reported move would be the first concrete measure by a major Japanese car company. The sources said Honda now plans to build its new Civic model in Indiana from May 2028, with an expected annual production of around 210,000 vehicles. All of those speaking to Reuters requested anonymity, as the information has not been made public.
The problem is America sold out our manufacturing 50 years ago to appease businesses trying to achieve the lowest labor cost possible. And we enriched numerous countries, specifically China, and look what they did. They used American money to enrich themselves just to turn around and become our #1 geopolitical adversary. And the COVID pandemic exposed just how vulnerable America was and reliant on our #1 adversary for the most important and critical things needed to maintain our security. And within the last 50 years, a whole cultural mindset has emerged that America is just this naive country with endless pockets that can be taken advantage of and siphoned off of to enrich anybody who wants to do business with us. And now that the gravy train is over, and finally we have a president who wants to concentrate the vast wealth of the United States on improving the lives of its citizens, every country acts like we're the bad guys and expects our government to put the priorities of them over the priorities of its own citizens. And that's why you have Justin Trudeau coming out and saying that Canadians are going to continue to boo the U.S. national anthem. Watch.
Canadians are hurt. Canadians are angry. We're going to choose to not go on vacation in Florida or Old Orchard Beach or wherever. We're going to choose to try to buy Canadian products and forego bourbon and other classic American products. And yeah, we're probably going to keep booing the American anthem. But let me tell Americans, we're not booing you. We're not booing your teams. We're not booing your players. We're booing a policy that is designed to hurt us. And we're insulted. And we're angry. But we're Canadian.
First off, booing our national anthem definitely is disrespectful to the citizens, to the service members, and totally disrespectful to the historic alliance and relationship we've had with Canada. And now that Donald Trump is simply asking our northern neighbors nicely to do a little bit more on the border to balance out the trade so it's a little bit more beneficial to America, the people who are whining about being our longest friend and ally all of a sudden want to boo our anthem like we're public enemy number one. These Canadians are so Trump deranged and frankly anti-American, I thought we were buddies, that they're willing to start a trade war with a country that represents 19% of their GDP, as opposed to them only representing 1.3% of ours. So not only is there deep-rooted animosity for America finally coming to the surface, but it's also a ridiculously stupid business decision. That's why some 70% of Canada's largest companies are considering investing in infrastructure and production in the United States because they know at the end of the day, after all this posturing by politicians, if they don't have access to the United States market, they are finished. So while tariffs are undeniably good from a leverage perspective, the Democrats are trying to argue that they're going to be bad because they'll cause inflation. Here's Trump's Commerce Secretary debunking that on CNBC.
I mean, how much pain are we going to be willing to take in inflation if all of a sudden they hit us right back?
Remember, so you made one comment. So inflation comes from a government printing more money. Some prices can rise. This bottle of water.
It can't happen at all from tariffs?
Tariffs do not create inflation. Printing money creates inflation. You have a balanced budget, there can't be inflation. It doesn't mean one product could be more expensive and one product could be less expensive. But China, I'll give you an example. China has the highest tariffs in the world. In the world. Everything gets tariffed in China, and they don't have inflation. In fact, they have deflation. India, the second highest tariffs in the world, they don't have inflation. So this concept is just people whining and complaining and not being truthful. The fact is, we need to protect America.
Tariffs are a widespread macroeconomic phenomenon that affects every product, every service, in every industry. Tariffs simply make specific products coming from specific countries more expensive and less attractive than the American alternative. So if you buy American, the prices don't go up. Not to mention Mexico, China, and Canada represent less than half of all the total imports that we buy. And imports represent only 15% of everything that we consume. Another piece of news I wanted to share that highlights the enthusiasm behind Donald Trump's business-friendly America is the spike that happened today with the European bond market. You see Germany up by 8.5%, France up by 4.3%, UK up by 1.2%, Spain up by 4.3%, and Italy up by 3.6%. When bond yields spike like this, it means there is very low interest in European debt. And that's twofold. It's because Donald Trump has made America the best place to put your money. And second, the Europeans are scrambling to try to raise an enormous amount of money to keep funding this endless Ukraine war. And investors are saying, fine, we'll give you money to waste all you want, but it's going to cost you a lot more if you're trying to convince us to invest with you as opposed to the safe bet, which is the United States. And another fatal blow to the Democrats' illogical Trump resistance is polling came out last night talking to voters about how they felt about Trump's speech to Congress. And the results are a damning indictment of how the public perceives the Democrat Party. Views of Trump's speech, 76% of people approved. Time Trump spent on issues you care about, 63% said a lot. How did the speech make you feel? 68% said hopeful, 54% said proud, only 27% said worried, and 16% said angry. Trump's speech was 74% say presidential, 74% say entertaining, 71% say inspiring, 62% say unifying, 46% say divisive. Trump described crime problem as 68% say about as it is, 22% say worse than it really is, 10% say not as bad as it really is. So despite what the experts say about the crime statistics, the American people clearly feel that crime is a problem. Having the congressman removed from chamber for interrupting Trump, 76% agree. And now finally, does Trump have a clear plan for inflation? 68% say yes, because Democrats keep screaming, oh, well, Trump hasn't done it. In 6 weeks, he hasn't fixed 4 years of problems. For someone who the Democrats claim is incompetent, they sure hold Donald Trump to a high standard if they expect him to complete every single campaign promise within the first 6 weeks of office. They're trying so desperately to dull Trump's enthusiasm by making these irrational and unrealistic demands that Trump fix every single issue Biden caused within a month or he's a failure. And finally, like Trump's plans for waste in government spending, 77% like. Immigration in the border, 77%. Ukraine and Russia, 73%. Tariffs, 65%. That's because the Democrat propaganda isn't working. The American people have woken up to the lies of the mainstream media and the Democrat politicians. They're not Trump deranged and giving him a 5-week window to solve every single crisis. People like the plan, they like what's already happened, they're excited about the trajectory, and Democrats will just continue what they're doing down the Trump deranged path to nowhere, despite overwhelming evidence the public is in support of what Trump is doing. Now I want to leave you guys with a clip from ghetto Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, who proves once again that it's not hyperbole when we call her ghetto. She is just classless and trashy. Watch.
Hearing all kinds of nonsense and bullshit. Let me just be real. And we weren't gonna sit for that shit. We wouldn't. You know, we showed up. And if he had some sense, then maybe we would have been about that life. But y'all know he ain't got no sense. So please give some love. This took a little bit of coordinating to do for sure. We got some cool shirts. We got Madam Williams.
Now, this was her after Trump's speech last night, where the Democrats made a complete embarrassment of themselves. They showed how void they were of dignity and character by not applauding for a variety of things that had nothing to do with any partisan issue. Just moments where they could show that they weren't completely Trump deranged and had an ounce of compassion left in their heart for the American people. They couldn't stand for a 13-year-old survivor of brain cancer who was made an honorary member of the Secret Service. They couldn't stand for mothers who lost their children to illegal immigrants. They couldn't stand for low border crossings. They couldn't stand for men not being allowed in women's sports. And yet you have fools like Jasmine Crockett coming out and making these classless videos, thinking that somehow it's going to win her any points or favor with the American people. I'll make a video in detail about Trump's speech to Congress yesterday and all the debauchery that took place from the Democrats. I live streamed it last night, but honestly, the end of Trump's speech was one of the most inspiring moments that I can remember. It had me riled up and optimistic for the future of America, and this massive $1.7 trillion of investment is already proof that Trump's plan is bearing fruit. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a video. And I will see you guys in the next one.